They called her the Grey Ghost, a luxury liner turned warship that cut through the Atlantic like a knife. But when the war was over and the passengers returned, not all of them left. Anchored in the still waters of Long Beach, California, the RMS Queen Mary is no ordinary ship. She is a floating museum, a hotel, a relic of the past, and maybe a prison for the dead. Welcome to Ghosts on Tour. I'm Jamie, and tonight we climb aboard a ship where echoes still drift through the halls, footsteps ring out in empty stairwells, and the engine room holds a terrible secret. This is the Queen Mary, and we are not alone. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Ghosts on Tour. I'm so excited to have you guys. Today we're talking about the Queen Mary. I'm a little bit scared, I'm a little bit nervous, but let's dive into this episode. Launched in 1936 by the Cunard Line, the RMS Queen Mary was one of transatlantic luxury. Longer, faster, and grander than the Titanic. With Art Deco detailing 5 dining areas, 2 swimming pools, a ballroom, a squash court, and even a hospital, she carried celebrities like Fred Astaire, Winston Churchill, and Clark Gable. But then World War II began. She was painted gray and then turned into a troop transport vessel, eventually earning the nickname the Grey Ghost for her ability to outrun enemy submarines. She carried over 800,000 soldiers and is credited with helping the war, but that doesn't come without a cost. The Queen Mary was involved in a number of tragedies, including one of the most devastating naval collisions of the war, but we'll get to that soon. By 1967, the Queen Mary was retired and permanently docked in Long Beach, California, and she still remains there today. But retirement did not mean peace. Ask anyone who has been on the Queen Mary ghost tour, and you will hear one story more than any of the other stories, and that is the story of Door 13. Deep in the ship's engine room lies a watertight door used during emergency drills. In 1966, a young fireman, an 18-year-old crewman named John Pedder, was crushed to death during a routine drill. He had been playing a prank and misjudged the closing time. Today, visitors report seeing a man in blue overalls lingering near door 13. He's seen walking and then vanishing into the walls. One woman said she was approached by a man who asked where the engine room was. When she turned to answer, he was gone. EVP sessions near door 13 have recorded words like help and crushed, and ghost hunters who've stayed overnight say the engine room is the one place where no one laughs, and even in the daytime. The first-class swimming pool aboard the Queen Mary hasn't held water in decades. It's closed to the public except for ghost tours. 2 famous spirits are said to haunt the pool, and one of them is a young girl named Jackie, and the other is a woman in 1930s style clothing. The young girl named Jackie was believed to be about 5 or 6 years old. She reportedly drowned in the second-class pool, but her spirit seems to favor the first-class pool area. Tour guides often hear giggles, splashing, and singing, despite the pool being obviously bone dry, as we said. And paranormal investigators have recorded Jackie's voice responding to questions. When they asked, "Are you playing?" the audio picked up yes. The woman in 1930s style clothing is often seen standing near the changing rooms or disappearing into the old showers. Visitors have reported wet footprints leading away from the pool, even though obviously there is no water there and there hasn't been for over 50 years. Some believe Jackie is just residual energy, and others say she's intelligent and playful. But either way, when you walk through the tiled room, the air feels thick. Some of Queen Mary's old staterooms are open to guests as a hotel room today, but others have been closed permanently due to activity, which I think we can guess is some weird ghost activity that people have reported. One of the most notorious was Stateroom B340. According to ship records, a man died violently in that room during a 1948 voyage. Some say he was murdered, and others claim he suffered a mental breakdown. Guests who have stayed in B340 before it was closed permanently have reported faucets turning on and off on their own, bed sheets ripped off in the middle of the night, heavy knocking at the door with no one on the other side, the bathroom light flickering constantly. And in 2018, the Queen Mary reopened B340 for guests brave enough to spend the night, complete with a Ouija board, tarot cards, and a chest of haunted items. That's insane. But honestly, take me there. The results were that guests end up checking out early, and many of them refuse to ever talk about what happened. I can only imagine the stories that could be told from that room and staying the night there, especially with Ouija boards and haunted items. Like, I can't even grasp. During World War II, while acting as a troop carrier, the Queen Mary accidentally collided with the HMS Curaçao, a British escort ship. The Queen Mary was traveling at full speed as part of protocol against submarines, and it couldn't stop. It sliced through the smaller Curaçao, cutting it in half. 338 men were lost in the freezing Atlantic waters. While this tragedy occurred far from the ship's current dock, some paranormal investigators believe those souls followed her. Crew members over the years have reported seeing soldiers in uniforms wandering the lower decks. Others hear panicked cries, slamming hatches, or the sound of rushing water, even though the ship hasn't moved in decades. One security guard said he heard what sounded like footsteps running through a corridor, followed by silence and then the slow creaking of metal bending. Some believe that these are echoes of that terrible day in 1942, forever imprinted on the ship's steel frame. We're going to move on to a few chilling personal accounts from the visitors and former staff of the Queen Mary. I found a couple stories on Reddit. One of the people said, I had a few experiences years ago when I toured the ship. We were viewing the swimming pool, which is very empty now and used to be a sleeping area of sorts for troops. I was startled to see some shadows diving into where the water would be from a height I could guess was a diving board. We also went to a darkened room the tour guide said used to be a dressing room for entertainment shows the ship would put on back in the day. I immediately felt like I was going to faint and that my battery drained. The guide said that often happens there. We also went to a shower area the guide said has been reported to be a portal, but I didn't feel anything at all. I did get some very spooky pictures of faces in that area. I was very young and they scared the shit out of me, so I deleted them before cell phone cameras. I constantly wish I had kept them. I sometimes wonder if the phenomenon knows we will delete photos before sharing or influences us to do that somehow. Another person said, I had a very odd experience on the Queen Mary. I did an impromptu tour of the boat. There was a flea market in the park next to her, and with admission, you could walk around the boat. My friend walked around looking at the pictures, walking through some hallways and either side of the deck, and then the engine rooms. Going up one side of the engine room on a thin metal ladder, I got very discombobulated. Vertigo. I don't know what. I'd felt sort of dizzy since getting on the ship. But this was suddenly very intense, and I actually clawed at the railing to hold on as I lost my balance and keeled toward the side. While the Queen Mary is floating technically, she doesn't move that much, or pitch, or roll at all. It was the strangest thing, and I've never felt anything like it since. Not long after touring the boat, my friend and I parted ways, and I went home and collapsed into an all-encompassing nap for about 2 hours. I was suddenly just exhausted, like all my energy had been zapped. I texted my friend when I woke up and found out she'd had the same exhaustion and nap experience. And someone responded to that and said, oh wow, reading your account of your experience reminded me of my own. At the time, I didn't think much of it, honestly. A few years ago, I took my 10-year-old daughter to the Winter Festival at the Queen Mary. We went a little early to walk around the boat and do a self-guided tour of sorts before the festival opened that evening. My daughter and I were walking near the bow on an outside metal deck. I had been taking pictures when I all of a sudden felt like I was going to fall over. I put my phone away and sat on a step hoping it would pass. I brushed it off as, I don't know. When we walked through the ship, I took a ton of pictures, and this actually reminds me that I should go look at them and see if there are any anomalies. Another person, Master Chief Sierra, commented and said, I did a paranormal investigation of Queen Mary in 2009. I was able to take a tour to the bottom of the ship and picked up EVPs of men speaking in German. Men who were prisoners of war from World War II who had been transported across the country in the ship's keel. The entire time, from the moment I set foot aboard that ship, I had experiences, including a full apparition encounter not 5 minutes after I boarded the ship. I've investigated well over 100 locations in my paranormal work, and without a doubt, the Queen Mary is the most haunted place I have ever investigated or encountered. That is honestly crazy. Today, the Queen Mary serves as a museum, a hotel, and a venue for events. Her reputation for the paranormal draws thousands of tourists, ghost hunters, and skeptics every year. She's been featured on Ghost Adventures, Most Haunted, and Unsolved Mysteries. Paranormal investigators say she's one of the most active places they've ever visited. But many guests check in simply for the beauty, the polished wood, brass railings, and views of the Long Beach Harbor. What they don't realize is that the Queen Mary never really rests, and maybe neither do the spirits aboard her. The Queen Mary has survived war, fire, tragedy, and time itself. She was never sunk, but maybe she is haunted by what lies below the surface. Next time on Ghosts on Tour, we cross the Atlantic once more. This time to Ireland, where a remote, ivy-covered castle once played host to satanic rituals, murders, and a mysterious elemental spirit that still terrifies those who visit. It's called Leap Castle, and it may be one of the most haunted castles in all of Europe. Until then, sleep well. And if you ever book a room aboard the Queen Mary, don't forget to say goodnight to Jackie. Just don't expect her to say it back. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Ghosts on Tour where we visited the Queen Mary, which sounds like honestly, like one day when I'm rich, I'm just going to save up all this money and go visit all these places. That would be so fun. I can't even imagine, especially going to like one of the most haunted places. I mean, this is one of the stories that I've found the most personal encounters about. Some of the other ones are a bit harder to find personal encounters, and this one there was no shortage of finding personal encounters in the Queen Mary, or just people that have visited there and had experiences with paranormal activity. I really wish they would open back up the room B340 because I'm trying to stay there and do some Ouija. When I was younger, I used to do Ouija board, like in middle school, and nothing ever happened, but me and my friends would always try so hard. And I used to always try to do, like, we always used to do the Bloody Mary. We used to try to do, like, the Sandman thing where you, like, pack yourself with sand or something the night before, and then you're supposed to wake up the next morning. I don't even remember what it was, but we always used to do scary shit. Like, when I was younger, I was a whore. I was a slut for those types of things. Like, actually, I used to do the with my friends, and my mom actually did this with us, the light as a feather, stiff as a board thing, where you try to like do light as a wet feather, stiff as a board, and then they are supposed to like levitate basically. And yeah, it was all very entertaining to me, and still to this day, I obviously find that stuff extremely interesting and entertaining. My favorite movies have always been horror movies, especially ghost movies. Like, I'm mostly interested in ghost and paranormal types of movies rather than like the murder movies like Jason, even though I still enjoy those movies, but I'm more interested in those like type of paranormal things, or even like witches and all those types of things. I love fantasy, which there are a lot of shows and movies out there of. But yeah, I've always took an interest in those types of things. When I was younger, I used to watch Chucky all the time, and any scary movie I could get my hands on, like as early as literally I remember. And I honestly, this is not my parents' fault. My parents didn't know I was watching this. It was my sister. My sister is 12 years older than me, so I always had like a lot of experiences when I was young that I probably shouldn't have had until I was older. But yeah, she would always let me watch like any movie I wanted, and she liked scary movies too, so we used to watch horror movies together. And I used to watch Chucky all the time, and I was obsessed with Chucky. And like the Leprechaun movie, oh my god, I remember that being so scary. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions, or let me know what you thought. If you've ever been to this place, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you in the next episode of Ghosts on Tour. Love you. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, then YouTube says that you might like this one. Okay. Love you. Bye.